Welcome to SOS Media, your number one source of the latest news, opinions, and in-depth investigations that dig deeper into today's developing stories around the globe. It has now become obvious, and it seems like even with R. Kelly's inability to comply with payments of the alleged victim restitution, the court, just like squeezing water out of a stone, is still able to get the money from his music royalties. Labels, streaming companies and imprints quickly dropped R. Kelly among his trials and controversies fueled by the then emerging social movements like the Mute R. Kelly campaign. Irrespective of all the pressures brought to confront his music, many fans still hold on to his classics and big tracks, and even with all of this legal reckoning in mind, they still hold a lot of weight for the listeners. R. Kelly and the Universal Music Group have been compelled by a federal judge to turn over more than $500,000 in songwriting royalties in order to pay restitution and legal fees associated with the federal trafficking case, for which he was found guilty and sentenced to 30 years in prison in the year 2022. According to information attained by SOS Media, U.S. District Judge Ann Donnelly signed a writ of garnishment forcing UMG to deliver Robert Sylvester Kelly's outstanding sum of $520,549 in restitution and criminal fines to Brooklyn federal prosecutors. The music publisher was singled out after UMG disclosed that it was holding $567,444 in publishing royalties, leading prosecutors to determine it could completely resolve the penalty. R. Kelly's lead attorney Jennifer Bonjean, who is in the process of appealing his case, shared in a statement, "We maintain that R. Kelly's convictions and the restitution orders were erroneous, and the Second Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals will have the final word on it. I can promise that when the Second Circuit reverses Mr. Kelly's convictions, we will seek the return of every cent that has been wrongfully taken away from him," she added, looking rather very determined. This is not the first, and probably not the last time either, that the undisputed king of R&B has been forced by the court to pay his dues in restitution. We should all recall that in September 2022, R. Kelly was unfortunately ordered to forfeit nearly $28,000 from his inmate account to cover unpaid criminal charges and fines. More recently, in February, R. Kelly was sentenced to 20 years in prison for federal child crimes here in Chicago, Illinois, to be served concurrently with his ongoing 30-year New York sentence. The prison sentence was paired with over $42,000 in restitution, which could be redirected from the remaining royalties held by UMG or Sony, which are R. Kelly's former music labels. Under federal law effective April 24, 1996, Congress made restitution mandatory for many types of federal crimes. But for most crimes committed prior to this date, judges have more discretion on whether to order restitution or not. We should also note that as a practical matter, a defendant who has no money or potential to make money is unlikely to make meaningful restitution to the victims of a crime. We thus can all agree that R. Kelly, who is under incarceration, has no potential to make money as yet, but the daily piling of more and more restitution dues beat one's common understanding. Although R. Kelly's older music still earns him some income, his recent releases have not achieved the same level of success. In December 2022, new music was briefly leaked but was later removed. Furthermore, his record label dropped him in 2020 due to then pending charges against him. Alleged victims should consider closely the types of restitution allowable, as it is often limited and may not include damages for such things as pain and suffering. But now, 6 women are to be awarded a total of around $10.5 million for alleged threats made against them by R. Kelly and his team. The individuals claimed they were looking to hold a screening of the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly in 2018. However, it was eventually called off due to the threats. According to the civil suit, the victims now struggle with PTSD as well as panic attacks as a result. It would be rational for victims to provide receipts or other medical verification when possible, but not just claims. We should also note the fact that after a defendant is convicted, the victims may also be asked to complete a victim impact statement. This statement allows victims the opportunity to report on the various consequences of the offense, including financial, social, psychological, and medical consequences. The victim impact statement should then provide an important way for the judge to consider losses and harm as a result of the crime. I am quite sure that Bonjean will be eager to find out whether this due process did take place with these 6 women and when it happened. In a rather interesting 2017 decision in the Nelson v. Colorado case, which is closely related to R. Kelly's allegations, the United States Supreme Court ruled that a criminal defendant who wins on appeal is entitled to a refund of the court costs paid in conjunction with the conviction. The judge in the said case sentenced Shannon Nelson to serve 20 years to life in prison and ordered her to pay $8,192.50 in restitution, fees and costs. The Colorado Department of Corrections removed more than $700 from her canteen account and applied it toward the money she owed. On appeal, Nelson's convictions were reversed, and at her second trial she was found not guilty of all charges. After her convictions were invalidated, Nelson asked Colorado to refund the money she had paid pursuant to her sentencing orders. The Colorado Court of Appeals agreed they should get their money back, but the Colorado Supreme Court reversed, holding to the fact that the defendant was required to seek the return of the money by filing claims pursuant to the State Exoneration Act. Nelson then appealed to the United States Supreme Court, which ruled that the money must be returned to her. Colorado argued it was entitled to keep Nelson's money because her convictions were intact at the time the money was paid, but the court quickly rejected this insane argument, and pointed out that once the convictions were reversed or vacated, Nelson was once again presumed to be innocent of the charges. The Colorado Supreme Court's decision would require her to go to court, under the Exoneration Act, and prove her innocence by clear and convincing evidence. However, if the presumption of innocence was restored once the convictions were thrown out, it would violate her due process rights to force her to return to court to prove her innocence. We of course can't doubt the fact that R. Kelly is going to have his charges and sentences reversed in the appeal and have his innocence restored, and whatever money has been taken away from him will have to be given back to him, and Bonjean for sure knew all this when she was making her comments. This is an important decision for anyone who has had a conviction reversed. Court costs, fees and restitution can total thousands of dollars that now must be returned to the defendant who paid pursuant to a sentence imposed on an invalid conviction. Let's now optimistically wait for R. Kelly's turn, for we are sure this is going to happen for him sooner than later. Meanwhile, as we always emphasize, we certainly know that R. Kelly and his legal team led by Jennifer Bonjean have already highlighted a lot of flaws, misinterpretations of the law and issues to do with injustice in the appeal brief. With such an articulate and experienced attorney as Bonjean, we are very optimistic that the appeal process will yield justice this time round. The rest of us who support and wish R. Kelly success in regaining his well-deserved freedom can follow the appeal process keenly optimistic that by the end of the appeal he will be a free man. We want R. Kelly to walk back home and resume doing what he knows best, give us more of the best music to enjoy. Thank you for watching today's video, brought to you by SOS Media. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our videos. Also remember to leave your comment about today's topic in the comment section below.